Okay, starting episode 45. We'll cover the project setup, configuring TypeScript, configuring Express, restructuring the application, creating the application module, creating the application component, bootstrapping the application module, and starting your Angular application. For some reason I don't like putting the previews. I don't like mixing the previews from brackets in with other windows. Browse, it'll snap that one. Should be able to snap this one in there. Yeah, there it went. But these tabs I don't want in there. But it's just fine, whatever. I don't know why it does that, but for some reason it does. Not an issue. Alright. The project setup. In order to use Angular in our project, we'll need to install both TypeScript and Angular. We'll need to use the Typescript Transpiler to convert our TypeScript files into valid ES5 or ES6 JavaScript files. Furthermore, getting off camera. I get out that light. It's off the background more. It's weird how it'll come in between it separates the two. Okay. In order to use Angular in our project, we'll need to install both TypeScript and Angular. We'll need to use the Typescript Transpiler to convert our TypeScript files into valid ES5 or ES6 JavaScript files. Furthermore, since Angular is a front-end framework, installing it requires the inclusion of JavaScript files in the main page of your application. Since Angular is a front-end framework, installing it requires the inclusion of JavaScript files in the main page of your application. This can be done in various ways, and the easiest one would be to download the files you need and store them in the public folder. Another approach is to use Angular's CDN and load the files directly from the CDN server. While these two approaches are simple and easy to understand, they both have a strong flaw. Loading a single third-party JavaScript file is readable and direct, but what happens when you start adding more vendor libraries to your project? More importantly, how can you manage your dependencies versions? The answer to all these questions is npm. npm will allow us to install all of our dependencies and run the TypeScript transpiler while we develop our application. In order to do that, you'll need to change your package.json follows as files. There we go. App node server. Oh, scripts. We got all these TypeScript compiler, TypeScript write. I'm guessing at these two. I'm not sure about that. App node server start concurrently. Node package run. Node package manager run app. Post install, typings install, dependencies, Angular common, compiler, core, forms, HTTP, platform browser dynamic, router, core.js, body parser was already there, but again, I wonder how much order on dependencies matter. Otherwise, they just would have put core.js up here above body parser, right? Mongoose, reflect metadata, Again, this order seems to matter. System.js, Zone.js, dev dependencies, concurrently, tracer, TypeScript, there it is, and typings. In our new package JSON file, we did a few things. First, we added our project's Angular dependencies, including a few supportive libraries. Core.js. This will provide us with some ES6 polyfills. Reflect metadata. This will provide us with some metadata that's just worded weird. This will provide us with some metadata reflection polyfill. RxJS, this is a reactive framework that we'll use later. Reactive framework. I'm wondering how closely that reactive framework is related to React itself. I keep saying that and wondering if they're the same thing, similar, related, completely different. System.js, this will help with loading our application modules. Zone.js, this allows the creation of different execution context zones and is used by the Angular library. Concurrently, this will allow us to run both the Typescript Transpiler and our server concurrently. Okay. Typings, this will help us with downloading predefined TypeScript definitions for our external libraries. At the top, we added a scripts property where we define different scripts we would like npm to run for us. For instance, we have a script that installs our typings for third-party libraries, another one that runs the TypeScript compiler called Typescript Compiler. That's what I was guessing up there. I think I got it right. A script called app that we use to run our node server, and one called start to run both of these scripts together using the concurrency tool. Next, we're going to configure the way we want the TypeScript compiler to run. Configuring TypeScript. In order to configure the way TypeScript works, we'll need to add a new file called TypeScript configuration JSON to our applications root folder. In your new file, paste the following JSON. Compiler options: target, ES5, module system, module resolution node, source map true, emit decorator metadata true, experimental decorators true, remove comments false, no implicit any false, exclude node modules, typings main DTS. In our TypeScript configuration JSON file, we configured the TypeScript compiler to compile our TypeScript code into ES5 code, compile our modules into a system module pattern, use node for module resolution, generate source maps, include decorators and emit their metadata, and keep comments, cancel the error for any implicit declarations, not include the node modules folder and typing files. When we run our application, the TypeScript will use the TypeScript configuration JSON configuration file by default. Next, you'll need to add a new file called typings.json to your application's root folder. In your new file, paste the following JSON. Global dependencies: core.js registry, Jasmine, Socket.io client, node registry. As you can see, we've added all third-party libraries we need in order for the TypeScript transpiler to compile our code properly. Once you're done, go ahead and install your new dependencies. So I did the npm update for Node. like in chapter 7 I did I even do npm? I already shut that server down. I think I just did npm update. I can go back and watch the video probably, but maybe I had to do install. I don't know. I just remember got stuck on the upload, did that forever. All the packages we need will be installed along with external type definitions. We'll need in order to support the TypeScript compiling. Now that we have installed our new packages and configured our TypeScript implementation, it's time to set up Angular. Took a bit of hair out of my hand. Now I got hair from my hand stuck on my tongue. Note: it is recommended that you continue reading about typings at the official documentation at GitHub typings. Configuring Express. To start using Angular, you'll need to include the new JavaScript library files in our main EJS view, so we will use the app views index file as the main application page. However, npm installed all of our dependencies in the node module folder, which is not accessible to our client side. Yeah, see, it installed stuff on node. So I wonder, see, it says to use that command, the npm install, but I wonder if you're doing that like in your, I guess you're doing that in the node bin, in your node directory. Doesn't really say where to run this. I mean, all this is application code, so I guess we're still running it in our directory that's like the app directory, but that's still installing it to the server. I guess our app directory is on the server. Installed all of our dependencies in the node module, okay, which is not accessible to our client side. To solve this issue, we'll have to change our file as follows: config express.js, resave true, secret, configure session secret. Where's there? Here we go. App use library, express static, path resolve, node modules. Path resolve public, path resolve node modules. Okay. A major change here involves the creation of a library static route that directs to our node modules folder. While we were here, we also switched the order of the routes, users, and index routes. Users, index, switched these apparently. This will come in handy when we start dealing with Angular's routing mechanism. In this regard, there's one more thing we have to do, and that is making sure our Express application always return the main application view when receiving routes that are not defined. This is for the case where the browser's initial request is made using a URL that was generated by the Angular route and is not supported by our express configuration. To do this, go back to the app routes index server routes.js file and change it as follows: app get, wonder if that's what we're Now that we have configured TypeScript and Express, it is time to set up Angular. But before we do that, let's talk a bit about our application structure, restructuring the application. As you might remember from Chapter 3, building an Express web application, your application structure depends on the complexity of your application. We previously decided to use the horizontal approach for the entire main application. However, as we stated earlier, main applications can be constructed in various ways, and the Angular application structure is a different topic. Main applications can be constructed in various ways, and an Angular application structure is a different topic, which is often discussed by the community and the Angular development team. There are many doctrines for different purposes, some of which are a bit more complicated, while others offer a simpler approach. In this section, we'll introduce a recommended structure. With the move from Angular 1 to Angular 2, this discussion is now even more complicated. For us, the easiest approach would be to start by using the public folder of our Express application as the root folder for the Angular application, so that every file is available statically. There are several options to structure your application according to its complexity. A simple application can have a horizontal structure where entities are arranged in folders according to their type, and a main application file is placed at the root folder of the application. An example application structure of this kind can be seen in the following screenshot. App components TypeScript, components, first component, second component. CSS, directive, services, templates, first template, second template. First CSS, second CSS. Alright, as you can see, this is a very comfortable solution for small applications with a few entities. However, your application might be more complex with several different features and many more entities. This structure cannot handle an application of this sort since it obfuscates the behavior of each application file. We'll have a bloated folder with too many files and will generally be very difficult to maintain. For this purpose, there is a different approach to organizing your files in a vertical manner. A vertical structure positions every file according to its functional context, so different types of entities can be sorted together according to their role in a feature or section. This is similar to the vertical approach we introduced in Chapter 3, building an Express web application. However, the difference is that only Angular's logical units will have a standalone module folder structure, usually with a component and a template files. An example of an Angular application vertical structure can be seen in the following screenshot. App component, TypeScript, app template. First component, components, first sub, second sub. First components, first template, some directives, some services, second component, second template. As you can see, each module has its own folder structure, which allows you to encapsulate each component. We're also using the file naming convention that we introduced in Chapter 3, building an Express web application. The file naming convention. Okay. Now that you know the best practices of naming and structuring your application, Let's continue and create the application module. Creating the application module. To begin, clear the contents of the public folder and create the folder. Clear the contents of the public folder and create the folder named app inside it. Inside your new folder, create a file named app module Typescript. In your file, add the following code: import ng module, import Angular module from Angular core, import browser module from Angular platform browser, import app component from app component. Angular module imports browser module, declarations app component, Bootstrap app component, export class app module. As you can see, we basically just created a simple module that declares the application component and uses it for bootstrapping. Next, we'll need to create the application component. Creating the application component. Inside your public app folder, create a new file named app component Typescript. In your file, add the following code. 4 minutes. 3.5. Import component from Angular core, component selector main, template, export class. Okay, as you can see, we basically just created the simplest component. Next, we'll learn how to bootstrap our app module class. Bootstrapping the application module. To bootstrap your application module, go to your app folder and create a new file named Bootstrap Typescript. In your file, add the following code: import platform browser dynamic from Angular platform browser dynamic, import app module from app module, platform browser dynamic, bootstrap module app module. Basically, this code is using the browser platform module to bootstrap the application module for browsers. Once we have these configured, it's time to learn how to load our bootstrap code using the System.js module loader. Starting your Angular application. To use System.js as our module loader, we'll create a new file named System.js configure.js inside our public folder. In your new file, paste the following code. Core, let's go up. Function global. Is the scale global? Looks like it's passing in global as an argument. Variable packages equal app main bootstrap.js, default extension.js, variable map equals Angular, library at Angular, rxjs, library rxjs, Angular package names, common, compiler, core, forms, HTTP, router, platform. Okay. Angular package names for each function, package name, packages at Angular plus package name equals main bundles package name, UMD JavaScript, default extension JavaScript. System configuration, default extensions true, transpiler null, packages, map. This. In this file, we're telling System.js about our application package and from where to load the Angular and Rx modules. We then describe the main file for each package of Angular. In this case, we ask it to load the UMD file of each package. We then use the system configuration method to configure System.js. Finally, we revisit our app views index EJS file and change it as follows. Title, base. There's the loading. We got the loading. That's all we got when we did chapter 7. We didn't even get title. But I never did the install. I just did the update, so that may have been where I was wrong. Shim, client shim, dist something. I don't know what the dist stands for. Distribution, district, zone, metadata, reflect. We got dist again, system. System.js, configure.js. Oh, these are all, okay, scripts. Okay, these are directories to files. System, import, say script. This is a different script. Because, I mean, they're all different scripts, but see how these equal a source, and this is system import app. Catch function error, console error. As you can see, we're loading our module files directly from the node modules package folder and include our system.js configuration file. The last script tells system.js to load the application package we defined in the configuration file. To learn more about system.js, it is recommended you visit the official documentation at github.com system.js. Now all you have left to do is run your application by invoking the following command in your command line. See, I never did start either. So after the update, I might just need to do start instead of what I do, node server. Apparently you don't do node server anymore, you do start. So that might change it all right there. Just changing that one command. When your application is running, use your browser and open your application URL at localhost 3000. You should see a header tag saying hello world. Being rendered. Congratulations, you've created your first Angular 2 module and component and successfully bootstrapped your application. Next, we'll refactor the authentication part of our application and create a new authentication module. Alright, I want to take a quick review over that. Actually, we've read all this. Can we check it off? I don't want to check it off yet, because that actually, I might come back to this. We didn't check off the last one either, which is fine. We didn't check off some of these in 6 either. We didn't check off most of those in 6. Let's preview what we're getting into next. Kind of helps me out sometimes. The same ones. Google, they're out of order. Facebook, Twitter, and Google. Note how we used, I say order A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T. So, you can put them whatever order you want, I guess. The links go where the links go. Note how we used the router outlet direct. Oh, I don't know why I'm reading this. I'm previewing, not reading. That'll be a good long read. I might even, before we, I was gonna say I might just fire up the server and try that before we read this. go ahead and see if we're hitting the right at 30 again.